My crazy entitled father tries to rent out my apartment that he does not own to 3 random strangers. Things got so bad that they even showed up to my apartment demanding my keys because they were moving in. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female and my parents are so crazy to the point where me as well as a majority of my family have cut them off. For me personally, I've cut off my dad completely and my mom calls on occasion. My mom is also constantly trying to overstep her boundaries, such as inviting him to family events that he's specifically not invited to. And she purposefully does these things, knowing they'll cause an argument, and she gets joy out of it. They're that kind of people. So needless to say, any sane person could agree that they would not want this kind of problem in their life. My dad is delusional and narcissistic, and this is so bad that he thinks he's famous and claims that everybody runs up to him for pictures, telling him how famous he is, while also spouting off that somebody's gonna make a movie about him. And obviously, as I'm sure you're able to guess, he is delusional and all of this is a lie, because no one has ever seen this and it's kind of a running joke. People will actively laugh at him, but in his mind, he thinks that they're laughing with him and not at him. He has lost all of his friends due to his poor behavior, such as arguments, belittling, and non-stop phone calls. So hopefully you understand and have a better picture of who it is that I have to deal with probably for the rest of my life. But back to the story, I have my own apartment, and I chose not to give my address to them because we aren't on speaking terms, and he made some threatening remarks towards me because I wouldn't give him my personal information. Also, he could try and take out loans in my name. Like, that's an obvious no. Also, it's important to note that I did not grow up with him. So while he is technically my dad, I also barely know him. So this is where things get really crazy, because he apparently told people that he has an apartment, and the apartment he's referring to is mine. And he likes to brag, stating that he lets his daughter live in this apartment. He likes to pretend that he's a big shot. So he then told some people who needed a place to live that they could stay at his spare apartment. So he got my address from a family member just so he could further spread this lie. I assume my mom gave out the address due to the fact that no one I know speaks to him. Well, one day I get a call from my apartment building manager saying that there's some people at the gate claiming that they're here to move into my unit, and they asked for clarification if this was correct. And at this point, I'm just so confused. And that's when the pieces started coming together, as I realized that my dad had sent these people to try and live in my place, even though this is not his apartment to give out for people to live in. This is my own private residence. I own this place. I pay the bills. This place is literally mine. At the time, I didn't even know he had my address. So I go out to meet these people who are looking to move into my place, and there was a lot of confusion across the board. There were 3 people, 3 random sketchy older looking men, standing there waiting to move in. As a side note, I would at most let a friend stay a few nights if needed, but not 3 strange random men. There's literally not enough room, and that's just not gonna happen. As I tried to figure out what's going on, my building manager stayed because she wanted to know what's going on as well, and wanted to help sort it out. The 3 men then proceed to tell me that they are moving into their place. They then asked me for the keys to the apartment, as they claimed that my dad told them that I was getting kicked out because apparently I was just freeloading in this apartment. I asked to see what the address was because I thought maybe they had the wrong address, but nope, it was mine. And at this point, I was just super upset. So I tried to give him a call to sort it all out, but of course, he's not answering at the moment. So I have to explain to them that I don't know how he got my address, but I haven't spoken to this man in about a year. And I also explained that I don't know what he told them, but I'm not freeloading. This literally is my place, and that unfortunately they cannot move in. They then tried to get me to call him again, but I said no, calling won't change anything. And this honestly is not my problem, so I can't help you. I then hear one guy on the phone talking to my dad, and I can hear him telling them that I'm apparently lying, and he was basically coaching them on what to say, stating that I should show them the lease. And at this point, we're all kind of at a loss for words. Luckily, my building manager stepped in, and she told the men that they all must have the wrong place. She explained that I'm the only one on the lease, and that they will all have to leave and sort it out. I can say that despite them looking sketchy initially, they were all overall very calm about the situation, because they got tricked by my dad, and they honestly thought they were moving into an apartment for free. So I apologized to these men and said that my dad is a liar, and I'm so sorry that he pulled you into his delusion. And to this day, I honestly don't know what my dad thought would happen, but like I said, he's delusional. He probably assumed all he was saying was true. It's all so crazy that I can't even attempt to understand, and honestly, there is no use. After the incident and once the men left, I told my manager thank you, and that if anyone ever comes when I'm not home, please give me a call or call the police, because the last thing I need is for someone to try and move into my apartment while I'm still living there. That is some seriously sketchy stuff. Your dad quite literally was trying to uproot your life, all because of some weird delusion that he has. And worst of all, he dragged 3 strangers into the situation, and they got sucked up into his mess. So hopefully this never happens again, and hopefully you're able to avoid your crazy dad, because this guy is delusional, and he clearly does not have any good intentions towards you in the slightest. I got ghosted by the guy I fell in love with twice, and now I don't know what to do. I matched with a guy in June of this year. After 2 months of talking, feelings grew intensely between the both of us. For a while, it did feel like his feelings were rushed. He knew I was the one 2 weeks into talking. He even had me meet his mother over the phone by the first month. It was intense and really fast. I'm the type that slowly falls in love, so I was very hesitant and expressed my fears of starting something new because I have a history of being hurt as well as being stuck in toxic relationships. Now, we never met. We first planned on seeing each other late July, but he had transportation issues. He had told me he'd make it up to me by staying with me for a weekend before visiting his family. He planned on asking me to be his girlfriend during this stay. I should add also that he's in the Air Force, so he had not seen them in a year. A week before this, communication decreased. For 4 days, I hardly heard from him. This is coming from a guy who would make sure to always talk to me every day. We would have nightly FaceTime calls and everything, so naturally I got anxious. We talked a couple days before he was going to visit, and after I told him that I could not depend on him, he got triggered. I was going through some health issues, so not hearing him during that time was really painful for me. He told me he was apparently done with this, and after an hour of crying on the phone, I asked him if he was going to still see me. He said yes, I promised to, so I decided to give him space until then. The day came for him to come and see me, and I heard nothing. He ghosted me for 17 days. At that point, I was making my way through the heartbreak and trying to move on. Then he texted me this long message. In summary, he said he was insecure and ashamed of himself, telling me that I was perfect and that he couldn't give me the love that I deserved because he didn't love himself. He said that he thought about me the whole time and that he knew he messed up. He then asked me to forgive him but not to forget. I asked him to have a phone call with me because I didn't want to text back and forth. We had a 2-hour phone call where I interrogated him and he answered all my questions. I told him he disrespected me and I didn't deserve that treatment. I said I couldn't be with him and that I had no trust in him now. He said he understood and that he felt guilty, but asked me to still be in his life because he wants to prioritize the people he cares about, and that apparently I'm one of them. I agreed to it, but said he needed to work on building my trust back. And after that call, I felt content. A few days went by and I reached out and I still heard nothing. It's been a week and I called him and it went straight to voicemail. So I'm assuming he's ghosting me again. I feel stupid for thinking that he'd be empathetic enough to know not to make the same mistake again. I feel heartbroken all over again. Why did he come back and express all these things just to ghost me again? How do I move on from this situation fully? I feel like his ghosting pattern allows him to keep this relationship open-ended, and I just want him to let me go. What should I do? I think you need to do exactly what you're implying. You need to let this guy go and move on with your life. He's clearly not serious about this relationship, and he definitely does not prioritize you or your time. So if I were you, I would just move on. This is just not worth the energy or the anxiety to deal with someone like this. It could be as simple as you sending him a text message and saying, "This situation isn't working for me and I wish you the best of luck." Then you just straight up block him and move on. He clearly does not care about you. And honestly, you can do so much better than somebody who's just gonna ghost you every single time you make up and try and improve the relationship. My boyfriend has no job or money, and he wants me to move out with him. And I'm honestly not sure how to go about this situation. At first, I thought it would be fun. Moving away from home is something that is terrifying, and I have always looked forward to doing. For some background, my boyfriend and I have been together for almost a year. When the relationship started, I didn't even care about picking a beginning date and decided I didn't want to change him or try to fix him, as I had fallen into that trap with my ex previously. We'd been friends since high school, and I had loved him unconditionally for ages before we got together. He cares about me and he calls me his soulmate. I don't actually believe in soulmates, but when we are together, he makes it all seem like everything is okay and perfect. He was raised by parents with narcissistic tendencies. He's the youngest of 6, and his parents are ready to retire. My boyfriend, however, is not an adult yet. He seems to be left behind by them. They want to move away by 2023, and my boyfriend doesn't want to go with them, mainly because he doesn't want to be living far far from me, and because they bring out the worst in him. My boyfriend has anger management issues. Almost all of his angry fits are because of fights with his parents. That being said, I don't know how on earth he's gonna move out of his house when his life is currently the way it is. He would have to say goodbye to living with his dogs, and he has no money and no drive to get a job. For example, he couldn't afford one scoop of ice cream because he only had $4, and he would have had to use it on the ice cream if he could. So I just paid for both of us. He has no savings, and he gets $150 as pocket money from his parents for vacuuming the house. Unfortunately, $140 of those dollars goes towards his addiction towards the herb, if you know what I mean. He cannot function without it and starts withdrawing in under 2 hours if he doesn't have it. By the way, it's illegal in my country. This is the main reason I am hesitant to move out with him. I fear that he expects me to pay for almost everything. Today, I asked him if he could get a job before our 1-year anniversary. Also, we could potentially move out together by 2023 like he wants. I guess I assumed that over the course of the year, he would change his ways and get a job on his terms, despite all of the evidence to the contrary. After I suggested this, he got so mad at me. He told me that he had been working for 8 hours straight, editing his no-budget movie, and I was making him feel like garbage about himself. At this point, I honestly don't know what it will take to get him on his feet. I am also helping with the production of the movie, and I myself have put more money into it than he has. His only weekly commitments are filming and picking up his herb. He is also a high school and university dropout, so it's not like he doesn't have all the time in the world to get things together. His addiction basically confines him to his messy bedroom. Over the course of COVID, he developed the addiction and severe social anxiety, and now he's scared to get a job because he withdraws in 2 hours, limiting how long his shifts can go for. His parents are the reason he smokes so much, and I was hoping if he moves away from them, his anger issues and addiction could subside. But my hopes are not high. I've tried so many times to help him quit, but I'm honestly so sick of trying to fix my partners. I am honestly the best thing that could have happened to him, but I just can't be a sugar mama. He says he will get a job after the film is finished. In the meantime, he'll be watching YouTube videos and playing on his PS4 while I go to university, teach, and work 2 jobs just to make ends meet while living at home. I don't want to resent him. I love him, and I don't want to break up. We are working on a film together. I just don't want to be taken advantage of. But I'm starting to get the vibe that he really is doing just that. What should I do? I honestly would not move in with this guy if I were you. His lack of work ethic and the fact that he has no desire to move forward with his life and make any kind of diligent, dedicated effort to better himself is more than enough reason for you to avoid this overgrown man-child. Because honestly, that's exactly what he is. And I'm not trying to be rude here. He has every opportunity to get a job and still work on his film. Yes, it is possible to do both. And there is no way you can convince me that he's spending all day editing his movie. That is just not what's happening. So honestly, I think it's time to have a very serious conversation with him. Because I think you know in your heart of hearts, this guy is using you for your money. And unless he gets his act together, I just don't see him changing anytime soon. My girlfriend is being very careless with her words and actions towards me, and I don't know what to do. My girlfriend and I have been together for almost 2 years now, and we actually took a break this year due to this issue that I'm going to talk about. She's promised to work on it, but tonight another incident happened, and I just feel crushed. Throughout our entire relationship, my girlfriend has just been thoughtless when it comes to me. I feel that is such harsh wording, but I'm not sure what else to say. She even admits to it. She says she doesn't think about her actions until I tell her that it's hurtful, and then it becomes glaringly obvious to her. It's always after the fact that she realizes this. It started at around the 4-month mark. She always insisted that she has no guy friends, which wouldn't really matter to me in the first place at all. Then one day, she was out with a friend, and eventually I realized she was actually alone hanging out with a guy. They were just friends from university, but she hid this whole thing from me on purpose, like lied about having him as a friend and being with him alone. Then another day, she started telling me in very, very fine detail about some intimate situations she's had with previous guys before me, which really made me uncomfortable. During our break this May, she re-downloaded Tinder and met a guy on it, and while we were reconnecting and figuring things out again, she would go over to his house alone and hang out. Again, I had no idea this was happening. That is until I saw him commenting on her socials. And bear in mind, this was when we were just getting into talking and trusting again. Tonight, she made a comment about a huge insecurity of mine and said when guys have this certain feature that I do not have, it makes her feel incredibly attracted to them. And I could not believe that she actually just described my biggest insecurity straight to my face. I absolutely love this girl, and she can be pretty thoughtful at times, but this is only a handful of situations that have happened. Most of the time, it's great, but I'm actually crippled with insecurity for fear of her hiding something else again and just not thinking about it until I point it out after the fact. She even admits that she fails to consider my feelings when doing this stuff, but she genuinely doesn't understand why, and honestly, neither do I. I love her so much, but I don't know what to do. I just don't understand why it's so hard for her to think about me before she does this stuff. What should I do? This is really inappropriate behavior from your girlfriend. She is not at all considering your feelings and completely being neglectful towards your needs. She straight up lied to you about having a guy friend while hanging out with him in private all while you're together. And personally, if I was in your shoes, I would be very suspicious of the guy she's had in the past. She's obviously very comfortable with lying about meeting up with him after the fact, so it kind of makes me question what else she's lied to you about. I mean, is she even serious about your relationship together? Because it seems like, from my perspective at least, she's taking a very immature approach to all of this, and that is simply not fair for you. So hopefully all of this gets worked out, because if she continues to lie and not think about you when this stuff goes down, then it's only going to damage your relationship with her, and it's only going to cause these problems to become even worse. My roommate's immature and rude behavior is starting to cause a rift in our relationship, and I don't know what to do. My roommate and I met freshman year of college and have lived together for the past 2 years. For the sake of this story, I'll call her Haley. That's not her real name. She has always done little things that bother me, like being extremely messy and not paying me back. But the situation has grown to be so much more than that. As of the past 6 months or so, she has been just plain mean, for the lack of a better term. Whenever I say that I like something, she tries to tell me that I am wrong for liking it, and then gives me a bunch of reasons why. She will also comment her negative opinion on looks or items of a mutual friends, or even strangers out of nowhere. Her comments are almost never positive. If it's not something that she owns or has been accustomed to in her life, it is less than or wrong. This oftentimes hurts my feelings and others. It even extends to the food that I eat. If I just happen to be eating something that she doesn't like, she will tell me that it's gross or looks disgusting to her. Another thing that Haley continues to do is not pay people back, including me and our friends. It especially irritates me because she is given a large allowance from her parents every month, yet the money that me and our friends have is money that we have worked for and earned ourselves, thus making it more valuable to us since we don't have an automatic cash influx without hard time and effort. Haley still owes me so much money for things I have bought her throughout the years and has not paid it back regardless of how many times I have asked nicely. The last major things that she does is complain. Along with the negative opinions, all I hear whenever I'm around her is why things are seemingly so awful for her. She constantly complains about not having things, or that the current situation just simply isn't good. For example, she attended a beach trip with our friends and complained that the sand was too flat, as well as the fact that the king-size bed she slept on hurt her back. She also said that, of course, none of the food was to her liking. In comparison, she would also brag about her beach house and how it's so much better than the one we were staying at. It made me so upset because it made me feel like I couldn't ever fix a situation to ever make her feel content and happy. To top this all off, she's also very selfish. She refuses to help someone out unless there's a benefit for her. Overall, she is very sensitive and has cried and ran away from situations if I have brought this up in any way, shape, or form. Even just simply asking her to pick up her mess or her trash in the common living area will cause some kind of meltdown and cause her to freak out and run away. How do I bring up these topics to her in the kindest manner possible? It has really been exhausting me mentally and emotionally, and has come to a point where it's hard at all just to see her as a good person. Keep in mind, I am one of her only good friends, whereas I have many more friends that I can rely on. What should I do? Your roommate sounds incredibly entitled and very spoiled. Mommy and daddy just gives her an allowance, and yet she still asks for money. In my opinion, I would never loan her money ever again. She is super selfish, she does not care about other people, and she has a very negative attitude about everything. I know you feel obligated to try and stay her friend, but maybe there's a reason why she has no friends. And I can bet you it's because of the way she treats other people. I'm surprised you've put up with this for as long as you have, because if I was in your shoes, I would have found another place to live or asked her to move out. And she only runs away and cries because she doesn't get what she wants, and she's trying to manipulate you. Like she is literally using that as some kind of manipulation tactic to try and get what she wants. But if I were you, I would not budge on this. She needs to clean up after after herself. She needs to pay you back for the stuff that you've given her, and she needs to make the living environment more positive and approachable. Otherwise, this is simply not going to work. I think this can be a case where you definitely think about yourself first and say, hey, you need to conform or something's going to change. And if that drives a wedge between the two of you and your friendship, then honestly, that's probably a good thing, because real friends don't act like this, and you honestly don't need this kind of energy in your life. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And the next time you live stream, use the cream of the crop music. Search Cream of the Stream on Spotify or whatever platform you use for copyright-free music to use for your next stream.